Do we need to talk about the elephant in the room?
I think we do. So it appears that Bungie is leaving Activision and they're taking Destiny with them, which I gotta say it was pretty shocking to read, right?
I didn't expect that at all.
When I first read that they're leaving Activision, I'm like, oh no, so who's going to develop Bungie or who's going to develop Destiny? But then as you read on, you're like, oh, they're taking the IP with them.
Keeping it.
They're taking it. Yeah. I feel like this was their long-term plan all along. You know, because they left Xbox, right? They left the whole Microsoft thing. So they knew what it was like being under a publisher. Yeah. But they obviously needed some help to get Destiny off the ground because they couldn't just do it with nothing.
Yeah.
That was a little different though, right? Watch is when they were under Microsoft, different. They were
right. Yeah.
And this was a publishing deal for Destiny.
Yes. This gives them full control of their own game, which is pretty amazing. There's not many companies out there, even, you know, AAA companies that make video games where they are the publisher, the creator, absolutely everything. It's not a super common thing to happen. I think, so my initial reaction was, this is going to be a lot of work in the short term, and it's a big risk because you have all those people at Activision who do advertising, they do community meetup stuff, so they set up all the things of us going to Bungie or going to conventions and capturing footage. That's all on Activision. So all of that stuff has to move over to Bungie. But I think ultimately in the long term, it's going to be an extremely positive thing for them to have complete control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pope, go for it. You were chomping at the bit on the pre-show, man.
You were. Let's go, Pope. I want to hear. I want to hear that theory of what you were talking about.
I'm a little rattled because my daughter fell. She's like, they don't call them sure-footed children; they call them toddlers.
Right.
And she toddled her way off of the top of a table and hit her head. And so, you know, you turn away for a second and they climb up something and then they just wham. But anyway, I could hear from across the house. So she's all right. But so I was chomping at the bit. Yes. I mean, it's Bungie Independence Day. It is a freaking celebration. We should be setting off fireworks. It's every argument we've ever had where we've pointed our finger at Activision and said that they're the evil.
Who made this decision, right?
Right. The evil empire. So if anything, this tears that down. We can't say mom did it, but dad was the one who did it. It wasn't, you know, mom or dad. Let's just say that we know now who is
and you know what we can do when a mistake happens? We can say, but Bungie's just an indie company, so.
That's stretching that definition pretty hard.
They barely have any resources available.
I know. Absolutely not.
I'm just extremely happy. I know that you know, I was putting on my tinfoil hat before this show. I thought for sure, you know, if I'm Jason Jones, the owner, the founder of Bungie, you know, where do I go with this company that I've created? And you know, it's not just opening up one IP and being happy with it. And he's a creative person. You know, he wants to keep moving and creating. And I think that this positions Bungie as that umbrella company where they can then bring in several new IPs. And I think that they're positioning themselves for that new deal that you guys were talking about with that other company, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's not going to be
well, that's a different game though.
Right. That's not going to be Destiny. That's going to be this new game. And I think that they're positioning Bungie as this, you know, Bethesda type company where they would have several different IPs underneath it. And then these companies like Vicarious Visions and what was the other one? High Moon. They're going to be like, you know, Treyarch and
well, wait a minute. Are Vicarious Visions and High Moon coming along with them, or are they still?
We don't know yet.
Those are Activision owned properties.
Those are Activision companies.
Those are, but I'm saying companies like them, right? These smaller studios that are helping Bungie create this with this larger workflow. I think that those companies are going to be coming in and forming these IPs, right? Mm-hmm. And these production cycles, and then you're going to get another game, and we're going to probably see Bungie owning
So you're talking
2 to 3.
Bungie wants to be a publisher.
I'm thinking Bungie's growing, and then Bungie's going to be its
everything.
own. It's going to be its own publisher.
They want to be like
it's
a Blizzard.
Be its own Activision.
They want to be like a Blizzard, Bethesda type of thing, where they have 3 or 4 really strong IPs that they are releasing like every year or so.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and everyone who works at Bungie would be working on all of those games.
Right. I mean, that
I
definitely sounds
I think
plausible.
This is really. I think this is really exciting news for Bungie. I think like any business that deals with creative people, it's going to be extremely difficult. On the opposite side, I think it gives them a lot of freedom, but then at the same time, I think it's very difficult that if anybody works in a creative field, it's sometimes good to have that person cracking the whip a little bit with deadlines and things like that.
Right. That's my biggest concern right now, Pope, is that I feel like that person cracking the whip was Activision, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Like if you read Jason Schreier's book, like it does Destiny ever come out without Activision cracking that whip?
It's like Borderlands.
Right?
Like Borderlands has the ability to release Borderlands, or Gearbox has the ability to release Borderlands whenever they want because they own it. And it's been like 8 years since we've had a brand new. Well, no, not 8 years. I guess it has been 8 years, right? 6 years because we had a pre-sequel. It's been a long time, essentially, since a new Borderlands. We're waiting for that, and that's my concern too. It's a catch-22 because like we are getting all this content like on a semi-regular schedule right now, and if they are in full control of that release, then it's like I don't think D3 is coming out anytime soon.
So I think that the annual pass was on Bungie's side because I think Activision was definitely behind the whole Dark Below kind of releases, and I think Bungie was sold this annual pass idea to Activision, where it was like, this is going to be much better for the type of players that we have in our game.
Right.
It's just about, like you said, if are they going to be able to have those deadlines? I mean, I think so. I think if anything, Bungie has become more harder on themselves than in D1. I think that they seem to always be very hard on themselves of whether they're making the right decision, and they seem to be making a lot of risks recently, trying a lot of new stuff. So.
Being hard on yourself is, it can be a good thing, but it also can be a real problem. Like if you strive for perfection, you can never actually release the finished project because you're always trying to make it perfect before you get out the door.
Yeah, but the thing is, when you are constantly being hard on yourself, you also end up like giving yourself more time because it's not perfect yet. And in the games industry, I'm pretty sure it's never perfect. It's never at a point where the game's perfect.
Yeah.
It's art, so it's always going to be. It's somebody has to make the call of like, well, we have to ship it, and that was Activision. Like, I think you're right, Watts. They're, I think they are obviously better off without having that huge pressure of the financial Activision, monster chasing them saying, you got to release this right now. Ship D2 the way it is. Like that's obviously not good for the franchise. But at the same time, I feel like we're probably going to be waiting for D3 longer than 2020. I think it's like 2021, 2022, maybe, because they're going to have the time and the ability to afford their schedule. And
well, the whole release schedule can be more flexible, I think. I mean, so if you read Jason Schreier's article about this, he mentions that this was an 8-year deal, right? And this is the end of that 8-year deal between Bungie and Activision.
It was a 10-year deal with an 8-year clause.
Okay, 8-year clause. So both of these companies might have seen this coming, but that release schedule that was, Bungie always had to hit that because of that deal with Activision, but both of those companies kind of knew that, this was coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, is there a Destiny 3? Like,
but if you think,
or do we just iterate on Destiny 2?
The next generation consoles are, do you want to release D3 a year before the next gen? Or do you want to wait until that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's in that we're getting close to that cusp now, right? Yeah. We've got to start thinking about when is that next gen going to drop? Is it going to be 21? 20? When we're going to hear more about that. And so, I mean, I'm, speculation game, right? But I mean, that's what I would be thinking about.
Yeah.
One of the first too. We might get the Xbox, a year before the next PlayStation. So it could be a staggered release of the consoles.
And I would tie into that, Briar, because I think one of the first things that popped into my head is about consoles, is about PC, is about cross save. This deal opens up a huge opportunity for Bungie, who I believe is supportive of that.
I think so.
Yeah.
Opening up cross save and cross play. Like, I'm not sure cross play is going to be the, maybe that's down the road, but I think we're going to see cross save happen sooner than later for us with a Bungie, an indie game studio like Bungie.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about, Activision's history with console exclusives with Call of Duty, those were like 10-year deals, right? Call of Duty had a 10-year deal on Xbox, and then it moved over to the PlayStation. And I guess I always assumed that the Activision had formed the same kind of a deal for Bungie with PlayStation. But if it was an 8-year deal based on this clause, then it could be that deal is ending now as well, and that Bungie, freed of the PlayStation 4 exclusivity deal, would open up crossplay and cross save.
Because that was a deal with Activision and Sony, right? Not Bungie and Sony.
And
I guess
I believe it's because the publisher owns that right to sell that part of it. That's what Activision does.
Yeah.
That's their job. So that's the creative end. Bungie does the creative end. Activision does the money end of it.
Right.
Now, what I'm excited about, and this is what I see. I'm reading. I am putting on that tinfoil hat. I am diving. This is wild. This is wild speculation. Bungie puts this tweet out, right? Within short order, within an hour, both Xbox and PlayStation have commented, and Blizzard
and Epic
have all commented positively about this within the hour. That doesn't happen like without coordination. Like, these are people that are talking to each other and are knowing. This isn't like, the guy over at PlayStation who's running their social media account just is like surfing Twitter and goes, "Oh, look what Bungie just did. That's cool." No, this shit's planned, man. And retweet, bro. Like, let's retweet that with some cool emotes. No, it's them looking forward to deals, and if the Xbox and PlayStation and PC all expressing positive things about this, I think we're seeing cross save. I'm putting it out there.
Yeah.
I think they definitely support cross save. It's all done, on the cloud anyway on Bungie's side. So it's definitely open to. They just have to nail that down.
Do you think it's going to be in D2 though?
Depends how long we have.
That's
D2
right.
for.
It's going to be in D2. We're doing it. I don't know.
September
I'm
comes.
Say yes.
September comes with like a new season pass. They're like, and cross save.
That's when we're getting.
I'm gonna say before September. I'm gonna one up.
Really?
Yep.
Let's play the game of how quickly can you... Wowzers.
I'll be honest. I don't think
that they split.
I don't think that this news is going to affect Destiny 2 anytime soon. Personally, I feel like
I would agree with Defty on that.
I feel like the schedule and like the timeline and the things that they've already slotted for the future is pretty locked in until at least September. Obviously, with Penumbra already scheduled on the calendar.
Yeah.
So I don't think anything is truly going to change from this news until like we get announcements of what is actually next for Destiny 2 or the franchise.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be seeing any changes for a little bit. You're probably not going to notice that anything has particularly changed, especially with the schedule being locked in, and they're definitely still sticking to that. So we'll be waiting probably a year before we see any real changes.
That's how I feel.
It's not like they're going to kick Tess Everest off the tower and be like, put an Activision sign on her back, like that's...
Actually, how do you
exactly call for that in one video, Briar?
I would very much like to see Tess Everest be kicked off the tower.
What do you guys think is going to happen to Tess, actually? Do you think she's actually going to go away?
I think she's going to stay right where she is. I think
she's going to stay where she is, and as soon as that split is finalized, I'm going to buy a bunch of silver.
That's right.
And I think that's something that I think hasn't really been touched on, is like Activision was their, where they'd be getting a lot of their money from, and like, where is that money going to come from to pay for? Because they have 700 developers right now.
Yeah,
they
have a big team.
Yeah,
it'd be a big budget to have all those developers, and Well, it might be cool that they're separated from Activision. It's now then, well, how are they going to fund it? Because I imagine Destiny's a pretty expensive game to make.
Yeah, there's a big question, right? That is a huge question. Like they must have a financial plan in place so that they know they can, when's the next time they make like a big lump sum of cash? You'd think it's next September, right? Like they'll make microtransactions throughout the year, but when's like the next big release coming? You'd think next September.
Yeah, but I think they're going to push the. Oh, Goose, sorry, you're going to talk.
Well, I mean, are people? Can you only get the events through the annual pass?
Some yes, some
you
no.
can access to the events.
You get seasonal content, but then there's annual pass content like the Black Armory.
You still get like
the Dawning,
the Halloween event, like that stuff is.
You couldn't just buy Penumbra. You have to buy the annual pass. To get
you got to buy the annual pass.
Okay. Yeah, there's nothing else on the horizon until next year.
I think they got $100 million investment, but that's earmarked for a different game.
Yeah, that's a different IP.
But yeah, any money going into Bungie, I think is really good, and they can always get more investors for Destiny specifically.
Right, they can bring in other investments. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Isn't that the issue though? With it's like, what do they give up for the investment? They give up rights, and that's like the.
They're in a
closer
position
into
now,
that Activision thing.
I think they're in a position now where they don't need Activision for what Activision provided for them. I think they have the money, and what they need now is they can broker their own deals with the High Moon Studios, the Vicarious Visions. They can get their own studios like that and be their own Activision. They're their own man.
Right.
They're cutting out the middleman, basically.
They're their own person.
They're cutting out that middleman.
Yeah.
I think the biggest question mark is, are they, as a development team with this franchise, has their process matured enough so they can have these realistic schedules for the player base? Like that's ultimately what it comes down to, because Activision,
yeah, I think so.
Right? Yeah, because Activision was the one saying, "I'm sorry, you got to get it out so we can play it." And now that that's gone, is their team adjusted enough to they can make those content releases?
I mean, I thought the pivot to bringing in Vicarious, did well, and and everything that I saw, Twitter, online, it worked pretty well. There were synergies. The teams seemed to be able to work remotely, but still have high communication. And Forsaken delivered great content. Yeah. So I mean, it was really, really good. So I think that they have good engineering talent. I think they have good producers. I think that the management of the engineering teams overall is strong. They seem to have good process. Just because my day job is senior architect for financial system software. And I deal with these things from integrating multiple teams together to do projects, and I see a lot of that on their side, agile processes and whatnot. And I have confidence, from what I saw with Forsaken, that everything else can continue that cadence.
Yep.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. I really do, and I hope that even if they do have to push the release date of Destiny 3, which I'd much rather them push Destiny 3 out a couple years than rush it like Destiny 2 felt, because then that means that D3 is going to be really a passion project for them, to where the pieces are together of what they really wanted and not compromised from we got to get this out at this date type of situation. I hope that's the case. Can we also talk a little bit about how, I know we're all excited that Bungie's, on their own.
I think it's super exciting.
Can we talk a little bit about how this might be affecting Activision? Now, Activision itself has gone through a lot of changes. It's not necessarily on solid ground right now itself.
No.
So what are how is this going to affect them? I mean, they're not doing Skylanders anymore, right? They're
Activision.
What are their big IPs right now?
they released a cut down version of Call of Duty this year, which I mean, a lot of people really liked, but at launch anyway. But then once the microtransactions got put in, a lot of people lost interest in really fast. There's been a lot of reports that they are taking a chopping hammer over to Blizzard right now and just chopping away at projects that, you know, they don't feel like are going to amount to anything. You know, Activision has said some things in the past that have not been kind toward Bungie. You know, the game isn't making as much as we had forecasted or that we had expected. Right, yeah. They showed like the pillars of Activision, and Destiny wasn't on there. Now, looking back on the last year and knowing what we know today, some of those decisions make a little more sense, right? Not having Destiny be a pillar of Activision. Yeah, that's probably a wise decision if they knew this was coming.
Because which they would have known, for sure.
From a PR standpoint,
yeah.
And I just think that Activision is might be struggling a little bit. I know a lot of people out there are probably thinking, why do we give a crap? Well, I mean, I think that Activision has the ability to create and bring up game titles. I don't like them. Don't like what they've been doing to, you know, games like Bungie. But it's interesting to see how these choices or these decisions are affecting a big company like that, because it talks about the overall health of the game industry and where the investment could go for games, and it affects all of us. So
yeah. The one thing that I would actually be concerned about is Activision has a whole section of people that work for Destiny. Like, they don't work on anything else. They are Activision Destiny community manager, Activision Destiny advertisement coordinator, event manager. Do those people now just not have a job? Are they going to be picked up by Bungie? Yeah,
maybe.
I don't know, because
what's Hyman Studios working on now? What's Vicarious Vision? I thought Vicarious Vision did a fantastic job with the Warmind DLC. Like, I really did. I thought the story was a bit weak, but a lot of the stuff in that DLC was super fun to play.
Yeah. And
like, to me, it's a bit of a loss. You know, assuming that they're staying with Activision and not going with Bungie, it's a bit of a loss seeing them not be around anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
it's going to be interesting. So
hopefully Bungie will be able to work out deals with them to continue it. Like,
hopefully.
I'm sure, like I said, they said they're beginning the process. So it's not like a clear cut,
right?
Like suddenly it's completely split. It's like they're transitioning, and I'm sure that transition is going to be, like you said, the department in Activision wants, and then the High Moon and Vicarious Visions, all that. Like, I'm sure.
That's right. Vicarious Vision also did the PC port.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
Yep.
It'd be great to see these studios continue working on, you know, this new version, this new path that Destiny is going on, Bungie is going on. But I believe the strength in Bungie right now is to create their own relationships and make their own studios. And I feel like if we have a game that is more centered around the vision that Bungie has, that Luke Smith tweeted out saying he's happy where of the direction Destiny is going, and they're very supportive of it.
Yeah,
I like to see that, because I honestly don't want this game to die. Right, I want.
If we follow your thread, Pope, to them becoming like a publisher of not only their games but other games, like, we definitely would expect to see a new launcher and then eventually a store on the PC. So right now they're in the BattleNet launcher on PC. I think it'll be telling to see if they get added. Like, if all of a sudden we see, okay, you can now buy Destiny on Steam or the Epic Game Launcher, you know, or one of those, or Good Old Games, or one of those, or if they create their own launcher and it has in-game, like, all the purchase stuff, like, created for it. Like, if that's all self-contained, like from a Destiny launcher or a Bungie launcher, I think that'll be telling to what their future plans are, right?
Yeah. I think it's tough to say, honestly. It's like they obviously want control of their IP, and they want to do more IPs, and they don't want to have the frustrations of Activision, fondling their projects, inserting Tess Eververses into it. So yeah, I think that kind of speculation is really tough. I think, if anything, I walk away from the day thinking, oh man, Destiny 3 is going to be incredible. I cannot wait to play that, because
they have complete creative
if it ever
control.
comes out.
I think it will.
It may be delayed, but Briar, I think Bungie is a mature studio now, based on their experiences with Microsoft.
They've changed a lot of stuff within their studio.
I believe that they've been heading this direction since they got burned by Microsoft.
Right.
I think they've been heading this direction for a long time, and I don't think Jason Jones is a dumb guy. I think he is a very smart guy that's thinking 15, 20 years down the road, and has built this studio to develop into what his vision is. And I am really excited to see a D3 with Bungie's creative control.
Me too.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
100%.
The thing is, though, is that we've still got the rest of Destiny 2 before we get to a Destiny 3. So that needs to do well, and the community needs to support it. I mean, as you say, they're indies now, so need to support your indies. Because if think about what happened yesterday with the community and the salt.
We need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Would there be a Destiny 3 if the community continues to have those sorts of, tear-jerk reactions to them experimenting,
I think actually, I think the real thing in question is, how is the rest of D2, the lifespan, going to play out now? Are we going to get annual passes every year with this type of content? Are we actually going to get a big DLC expansion again before a D3 hits?
Right.
I feel like that's the biggest
we don't
mystery.
know what happened in September of this year.
Yeah.
Right. We have no idea.
Are we going to get nothing in September? Is this going to be the first time that Destiny has essentially just a season get activated for September? Yeah.
Get a nice Rise of Iron.
Rise of Iron was, pretty good.
I think the difference, though, is with Rise of Iron, it sort of came out of nowhere. I always sort of look at Destiny from a lore point of view. And Rise of Iron just sort of happened. There was no sort of preluding to it as to that was a thing that was coming. Whereas we've got things like the Queen Mara visits every 3 weeks. We've got certain cutscenes that have shown up to reveal very big changes to certain characters. And I remember seeing an actual tweet the other day. Someone was asking about why that character hasn't shown up this week. And I think the response was something along the lines of, well, there is stories for them in the future. That's very different to what there's clearly, at least from a lore point of view, there's an actual plan of where that's going. So whether or not that's Destiny 2 or if that's something else, who knows?
Yeah. Interesting. How would you guys...
I just feel really good about that, the lore.
I mean, we are pretty much lore experts in this podcast.
I like to think of myself as a lore savant.
We got it dialed in. Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
How would you guys feel if there was no Forsaken 2 for Destiny 2, and it was let's say annual passes mixed in with D1 free updates? Content from D1 brought over into Destiny 2 as free updates until D3 came out. Where would be the point of not cool and it's cool? A year of that, 2 years of that.
A year.
From now?
From the end of Penumbra, because we still have technically new stuff coming until August.
I could see us. I could see us having another year of D2 being like this, with a raid sprinkled in there and more stuff happening.
Another annual pass here.
Yeah. I could see us getting another year of that, and then prepping us. The whole annual pass content releases, like the story development, will go towards the D3 launch. I could see us going that direction.
I mean, if they wanted to port D1 over to D2, and that was the content for a year, I'm not going to play a ton of it. You know, I already played D1.
Why are we talking about porting D1 to D2? I don't understand.
That was the question that Tefty asked.
No, I said in addition to, like, you know, they're taking, if they did, they took seasonal content, season pass ideas, and at the same time also brought stuff from D1 as free updates into the universe, because there's a ton of content in D1 that they totally could bring over into D2 that would help new activities and possibly new rewards to chase for people who just straight up enjoy playing the game.
Well, they kind of have been though. Like, yeah, we've been getting weapons brought across. There have been maps that have been like they're the same maps, but they've been re-imaged for Destiny 2. The thing is with porting is, and this is something I learned because of the 3D model project that I did, is that Destiny 2 had a very big change to the way it does rendering. And so porting is actually, you know, an actual process because they have to convert all the models and textures over to the new engine. So that otherwise they'll if you were to just load them up into the other engine, they'd look pretty crap because the lighting would be all wrong and that sort of stuff. So someone has to go in and actually touch on all those things. And I think that's why a lot of the like weapons they're coming through little bits at a time, because that's how much time it actually takes.
Real man hours.
Yeah, to pull them across.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's why, like, when they do the maps, they actually do like a new map as opposed to recycling the old one. Because I mean, you know, it might be easier to rebuild it using the bits and pieces from like, you know, like you have like a Nessus map and you have a lot of those assets that have already been made, and then you can rebuild it using those assets, as opposed to I've got all these D1 assets. I then have to update them and then make them look Destiny 2 or something, you know.
That's interesting, yeah.
There's I mean, bringing back old content is nice, but I mean, I think of it more like an old flame. You know, the memories are great, but you know, you don't really want to live there anymore. Like when they did the what's the one where you get the sniper from the IO? What's that called again?
Whisper of the Worm.
Yeah, Whisper. That mission had the secret that had the oracles. I mean, like those moments bring back great memories, and like that to me brings me closer to Destiny when I have morsels of those fun times. You know, getting through the Vault of Glass with friends, right? They're bringing back just enough. Those are those touch points that kind of ground me back into the franchise, and you know, would carry me through. You know, that's the kind of stuff I like to see. You know, bring back, you know, a great Outbreak Prime quest. You know, those kind of moments, right? I mean, I thought that this week, you know, harkened back to Outbreak Prime, which personally, as someone who enjoys ARGs, loves. You know, so that's the kind of stuff I like.
I guess
just these
the reason why I bring up like D1 content is because I'm saying like if we're not getting any new content, if we're not going to get a new expansion, then could they stoke interest and keep the player base alive with what seems to be low-hanging fruit from content that they've already gotten in the first game? But if it does take like an insane amount of man hours just to update the assets to then rebuild the content in D2, then obviously that's out of the question. They should just make quick morsels out of what they currently have in the game.
Yeah, I think what they would have to do if they're not bringing any new like maps or places to explore, stuff like that, they have to use what's already in the game and maybe add new loot to it. Or if you take like Blindwell for just as an example, add like new bosses, new weeks to the Dreaming City with some new loot, because that way they're using stuff that's already in the game, so they don't have to pay all those man hours to make something completely different, but they can just repurpose it.
Right.
So basically do something that they almost never done before.
They need to do that. Yes.
They need to use content that's already available to them.
Yes.
Because
really
that's the one thing that the Destiny franchise has had a really difficult problem with, is actually just, it's always been like, here's new thing, abandon new thing when next new thing comes out, and just keep on going.
Drives me crazy.
Which is why I said before that with the forges, I really hope they reuse them and, make a new exotic quest and have to go through the forges, or even add new armor set to each of the forges so they have individual pieces for them. Just reuse what you have made, because I feel like Bungie makes good stuff. They just
the potential of the infinite forest, Watts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I mean,
see, they reused something there. So
yeah, they did.
We're going in the right direction.
That was like the almost never done part of that.
In Destiny 1, they did add strike loot. So all of a sudden we started grinding for specific weapons for strikes, and like they have done it before.
They've done it with Nightfall.
They need to do it better.
Rise of Iron was basically all reused content.
Yeah, the Crota armor, that glow.
Oh, that
amazing armor set.
That was really cool.
We need good armor. That's what we need. We need that to come back.
Yeah.
Is anyone a Zelda fan here?
Yeah.
Or played like the NC4 Zeldas?
I'm not a fucking monster, man. Of course I am. How dare you?
I was just thinking of, so you had like Ocarina of Time, and then you had Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask was something that they pushed out very, very quickly because they reused a lot of their assets, and that was a different game. So a
lot of people are hoping they're going to do that with Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I mean, like they built the work. That the hardest bit is building it. Like once you built it, and it's something we have when we do our apps, and that is a lot of stuff that I do. That they might be little useless things on their own, but then I reuse it for something else, and it saves me a lot of time, and it allows me to get things happening quicker. So it's from a dev point of view, it's a very smart use of your resources, as opposed to we have to do everything brand new from scratch every time we do new content. So
let me ask you guys a question. Now that Bungie is in control of their server structure, they don't have to have like Activision like paying footing the bill for those. You think that we get a higher possibility of dedicated servers?
I don't think that was an Activision issue.
You don't think that was an Activision?
I think that was a proprietary Bungie developed network code that were like,
wait a second,
we made this really cool netcode that works for everyone.
I thought all the problems with Destiny were Activision related. Wait a second.
I honestly, I sincerely hope that moving forward with like Destiny 3, that they take instances that truly could use dedicated servers and use dedicated servers for that, and then allow their netcode to be able to be flexible enough to have peer-to-peer when it makes sense. So like strikes, it's okay for peer-to-peer. It's fine.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but if you have a comp playlist where wins count and people are getting DOSed and like lag actually becomes a factor with high-level gameplay, they absolutely need dedicated servers for consistency.
Yeah. Trials of Osiris or whatever that becomes in the future needs dedicated servers. The Crucible, I feel like anything where there's like something on the line is going to need them, because this DDoSing epidemic.
Oh, it's insane.
Lame.
D3 becomes PvE only.
There you go. They fixed it.
Cross save.
And I would be very sad about that.